All right, bonus episode time featuring Grimith reading to you, the viewer, listener, I suppose, for this bonus. Welcome to the epic Warhammer 40,000 universe. Volostad was first colonized by the Imperium in 979 Millennia 35. However, history of Volostad at this point is unknown. Warp storms isolated the planet, while still in its sociological infancy, left to develop on its own for the next 3,500 years. When Volostad was rediscovered by the Imperium in Millennium 39, 437, it was in a state of planetary civil war. Feudal, war-driven economies led by four main families: House Ochinka, House Petchenka, House Selenko, and House Volga, had brought the planet to its knees. The infighting had become so fierce that, due mainly to nuclear proliferation, the ecosystem was near collapse. Most of the surface had been overtaken by the oceans, swollen by melted polar caps. The Imperium put a stop to all of this. With technologically advanced troops, the Partmentus Reclamata set to work crushing the infighting and introducing the world to the ways of the Imperium. The strongest family, House Pachinka, was placed in position as the official imperial family. The ecosystem was restored to a workable state and technology was brought up to imperial standard. For the past 2,560 years, standard Terran years, Volostad has been a planet strongly loyal to the Imperium. Two main elements place Volostad at a premium to the Emperor: the Astropass and the Titans. Nestled in the central region of Tolcharan lies the Adeptus Astra Telepathica Monastery. The Astronomicon is a navigational reference point essential for safe and successful traversing of the perilous realms of nearby warp space. The Astropass' role in Volostad are to provide a stabilizing influence upon this temperamental warp site, allowing the Astronomicon to perform its function, permitting relatively safe warp navigation to continue through this vital corridor, the Segmentium. Should the distortions become too great to stabilize, or should any ships find themselves in jeopardy within the warp, the Volostad Astropass can provide what is effectively a psychic lighthouse. The Astropass have had to cease their work, however, since the Orcs arrived for fear that the Orc psychic weird boys might discover them and their purpose. Should the Astropass be destroyed, the Orcs could cut off the whole sector from Imperial navigation, and entire regions of space would be at their mercy. It would certainly extinguish any hope of long-range reinforcements arriving in time to save Volostad. Secondly, an archaeological team discovered ancient Titans still in stasis on Volostad in 928 Millennium 41. The Titans were placed on Volostad during the initial terraforming mission and had remained undisturbed for the better part of 7,000 years. The decision on what to do with these massive war machines was still pending within the Imperial Senate when the Orc incursion began. So we have our motivation for why this planet matters, why we have been sent, and why these resources are being sent to retake this from the Orcs. Getting started. Go step by step for the tutorial section. There's no physical copy protection, but in order to play the CD, you must be in the CD-ROM drive. Have our mouse and other controls. The Imperium of Man. More than 25 millennia ago, humanity first looked at the stars and began the great exploration of nearby space. Limited at first to sublight travel, colonization, and conquest proceeded at a snail's pace. Generations could live and die on the great interstellar voyages without ever seeing their destinations. Colonies are forced into independence. Aid took centuries to arrive, if it came at all. With the discovery of the warp drive came the great expansion. Mankind was freed from the need to spend generations traveling between the stars. The subsequent discovery and refinement of the navigator gene, which allowed pilots to make longer and more accurate warp jumps, merely confirmed the trend. Within centuries, rather than the millennia, humanity burst from its confining systems and spread out into the galaxy. As humanity moved into the galaxy, the dark age of technology brought seemingly unstoppable progress. Humanity's machines achieved incredible levels of sophistication. There seemed nothing that man could not do, even as humanity began to splinter into smaller groups. Some were cut off in remote parts of the galaxy, others deliberately isolated themselves, using their power and knowledge to make war on their enemies, human and alien alike. It was at this time that the Psychers, humans capable of using powers such as telekinesis and telepathy, first arose in the midst of humanity. The trigger for this emergence has never been determined, but Psychers were recorded on almost every planet known to man. Untrained and unprotected, many went mad or fell prey to non-psychic men. Uncounted millions were burnt as witches, destroyed by ignorance. More fell to creatures, daemons from warp space, beings which fed upon their minds and bodies. Civilization crumbled as ignorance and madness replaced enlightenment and technology. The dark age of technology ended. The age of strife was born. For more than 5,000 years, warfare tore humanity apart. Alien and human, all enemies were as one. The loose confederation of human space was shattered by local wars on every scale. Nation battled nation, planet fought planet, system laid waste system. Outspacers and aliens plundered the ruined worlds. Abandoned or cut off by warp storms, human colonies fell victim to local conditions. Terraformed worlds reverted to their natural condition, and as they did so, humanity suffered. Through chance and depleted gene pools, some colonies underwent a forced evolution, producing new successor species, the stocky squats, the powerful ogrins, and the beastmen. Other colonies simply reverted to savagery under the combined pressures of alien raids, ecological disaster, psychic madness, and technological failure. Only the worlds where psychers were rigorously repressed survived intact. The retrenchment of man was almost total. At last, so often happens, a single man, a conqueror, emerged from the darkness. The age of strife and its bloody wars were brought to an end. The Imperium of Man was founded as human systems were reconquered and returned to the mainstream of humanity of their own accord. The Emperor reunited humanity under his banner. For 10,000 years, this immortal being has ruled the Imperium. His rule is harsh and uncompromising, but it is only under his guidance that humanity has survived. The specter of a new and more terrible age of strife is ever present. The threat from the enemy within is matched only by the aggression of the enemy without. The Emperor stands between humanity and extinction. So we have our game starting up with our selection screen you see there, including the codex. We view the introduction. We have an orc background here. Orcs appear to have but one philosophy: might is always right. Whether on the giving or receiving end, none of the orc kind ever doubt this for an instant. Orcs are the dominant element of a race that includes orcs, Gretchens, and Snotlings. Orcs are in charge because they are the biggest, toughest, meanest, and most warlike of them all. Imperial scholars speculate that on the orc world of origin, there was another race from which the orcs descended. This race, called Brain Boys by the orcs, appears to have been extremely intelligent, arose to dominance in just a few generations, and initiated their culture's expansion into space. Note that it is very difficult to reconstruct this phase of orc history, as the captured orcs are very reluctant to talk about it. This information has been pieced together from orc legends in which passing references to Brain Boys are made, giving glimpses to a time when the orcs were not in charge. The Brain Boys appear to have been a symbiont race, able only to fully develop their intellects through mutations caused by eating special fungus that grew in underground caves in the home world. As Brain Boys were diminutive in size, scholars speculate they bred a race of less intelligent but tougher and more brutal creatures to fight and work for them, the orcs. Orcs were put to work cultivating the vital fungus. The Brain Boy civilization expanded well beyond their home world, but every attempt to cultivate the brain-enhancing fungus on other worlds must have met with failure. The only known location the fungus successfully grew was in the dank cave systems of the ancient homeworld. The orcs who were put to work harvesting the fungus began to wonder why they were being told what to do by such diminutive creatures. Eventually, the Brain Boys' own creatures rose up against them, and the orcs rebelled. The final act saw the orcs eating every last toadstool, mushroom, and puffball down to the spore, either looking to gain the same mental powers they saw in their masters, or to destroy the fungi outright. For the non-symbiont orcs, it was no more than a big feast. For the Brain Boys, it was a tragedy from which they never recovered. The Brain Boys' offspring across their empire never developed intelligent brains due to the lack of vital fungi. Instead of developing their intellect, the succeeding generations of Snotlings, as the orcs now call them, have remained inept, trapped in a pre-juvenile state. Orc civilization, though crude and harsh, has thus succeeded that of the Brain Boys throughout the universe. We have the Knobs, the strongest and best warriors, the heads of the orc households, and command the rest of the boys. We have the Mech Boys, the Mechanics, the technical engineers and master mechanics of orc civilization. So masterful they don't even fucking understand the shit they do, but it works. We have Mad Boys, unpredictable, impossible to control, dangerous to all around them. We have the Storm Boys, just impatient, rebellious. They want to get into it. And Weird Boys. All orcs appear to be psychic to some extent, some far more psychic than others. These orcs seem to have no control over the mental processes, and tend to literally explode in order to release the built-up energies. Great. Wonderful. So, there's your background on orcs. Don't you feel like you have accessed forbidden lore? Don't you feel as if that information should not be in your head? Well, you'd be right. You would definitely be right. Don't let the commissar know. All right? We have our tutorial, Hrothgar stance, reviewing the interface, inspecting your forces, how to deploy, and a walkthrough of how you would go about playing the tutorial, which I assert is more difficult than the first mission of the campaign. Ending our current phase, talking about screening and shooting, and continuing your advance and the suppression mechanics, and how to go about dealing with the Orc turn 1, your turn 2, your turn 3, and after the battle. Alright. Volostad is broken up into two main areas, the Polis Ocean, occupying the western hemisphere, and the landmasses of Doskoya, Kopolov, Langtona, and Welkonina, occupying the eastern hemisphere. The Kopolov Fold, an inactive tectonic fault line and mountain range, slices diagonally through Doskoya, dividing it into major northern and southern reaches. The northern reaches mainly consist of hot, ashy wastes, intermixed with sparse rolling plains, or sparse, wink, rocky valleys, and scrubby farmland. The partly terraformed southern reaches are a bit more hospitable, with occasional fertile farmlands, or fertile, wink, river valleys, and alpine mountains, but it is not without its share of strip-mined areas, factory cities, and ashy plains as well. Borodny, the main city-state, is located in a basin of the largest section of the Kopolov Mountains along its northern face. It is on the border of the Borod Ash Plains. Borodny's main function is that of a spaceport. It is well equipped to provide shelter and support for abundant numbers of large spacecraft. It is an important way station for the Pragathis warp points, and the only port large enough to handle the necessary volume of craft that would make up an effective main reinforcement in the battle for Volostad. The main city of Volostad is the Pulvania Hellspire, located on Volostad's Kopolov Steppes. Pulvania's original main spire was toppled when a large meteorite struck a nearby mountain, causing a massive section of that mountain to fragment and impact with the main spire. The huge structure toppled like a megalithic tree, its 5-mile length falling point down, piercing the hive below, causing the death of hundreds and thousands, including all of the noble houses. The whole area of the hive was rendered uninhabitable due to structural damage and massive chemical and radioactive debris from numerous industrial sites destroyed. A new spire has since been built, and a new political infrastructure formed. Also, a manor religious cult has risen from the event, the Volikistad Order. They tend to inhabit the more accessible ruins of the damaged hive sections and control all forms of commerce that could be gained from its ancient holocaust. It is said that their order also includes things that are less than human. These mutations are said to inhabit and guard the deeper, more central areas of the damaged hive body, as if it were a holy shrine. Mutants. Volostad's eco-history has rendered its weather most unusual. Constantly shifting global jet streams and after effect of the melted polar ice cause dramatic and sometimes violent pressure shifts that have all but eliminated safe transport across the planet's larger oceans. Travel is restricted between land masses to where the oceans are shallow, where the ionic disturbances are at a minimum. These thermal anomalies, however, cause a moderately temperate equilibrium for Volostad's climate, with no great temperature extremes from one area to the next. I see. Well, all the noble houses couldn't happen to better individuals, man. We go review the gameplay and the various window displays, entrenching, which I didn't do, for my Space Marines just loitering by the Predators. Does make them harder to hit. Well, the infantry can entrench, your Predators can't pull out shovels. What the hell, man? Airstrikes, if you do have, off-map air units purchased for the battle, full screen. Didn't show that off. You can make the interface disappear, get a fuller view of the battle. Selecting detachments, moving squads, the aerial unit movement, how to fire weapons, and close assault. The history of the epic universe is replete with examples of heroic charges which turn the tide of battle. In epic Warhammer 40,000 Final Liberation. What a mouthful. Your squads can carry out their own charges in pursuit of victory. You see, I have read it displayed both as Epic Warhammer 40,000 Final Liberation, which is how the game was presented to me, the request, and then I've also read it, Final Liberation Epic Warhammer 40,000, and then just Final Liberation. Fucking these trademark copyright mouthfuls, man. But By moving next to an enemy squad and then left-clicking on it, you close assault it. Even if the assaulting squad ties or dies, each succeeding squad that assaults the same enemy unit in the same turn, it's a close combat bonus. Flying units cannot close assault or be close assaulted unless they have landed. There you go. You know, our swords are more than just status symbols, damn it. Let's get in there and mix it up and just keep charging. We'll fucking kill him, I swear. The orc incursion began when war boss Skrull. How do I feel like pronouncing that? Let's just mix it up every single time. Yeah, annoy myself. Made a controlled crash landing of his Space Hulk onto the Rabashka Peninsula in the northeast corner of Doskoya. The Hulk now sits in a deep crater with some of its damaged Gothic spires still standing. Other surfaces have been built upon by the orcs for the purposes of their war effort and personal aesthetics. Conveyors and tracks run up the slopes of the scarred crater to the rim, where an ever-growing settlement forms with factory buildings, workshops, gantries, and crane arms overhanging the edge like a titanic spider lying on its back. The orcs currently have outposts of varying strengths spread out over vast areas of Doskoya. The further from their base the orcs get, the less potent their forces are, but their own reinforcements trickle in with alarming regularity as the Wog's notoriety spreads. There has been one stroke of luck in the Imperium's favor. 2 orc mobs from different clans had set out for the southwestern corner of the continent in order to secure the region, the small spaceport there, and any riches for themselves. A Bad Moon Stomper mob under war boss Urkthrall Kraka and a Blood Axe armored division under Grosnok Kull set out in an unofficial race for the region. Unfortunately for the orcs, they came within shooting distance of one another. Old rivalries and inter-clan hatred flared, and they set upon each other. The result was disastrous for them. Both detachments were effectively destroyed. The result of which was that the southwestern peninsula was left poorly defended by the orcs. It was an ideal location for the Imperials to establish an initial foothold for retaking Volostad. Volostad campaign. When Warlord Skrull called forth the Wa-Orc on Volostad, he attracted members of 3 clans to his side. His own wealthy Bad Moons, the rapacious Evil Sons, and the orkiest of all clans, the Goths. Additionally, mech boys from all parts joined him, bringing with them a wide variety of gargants and deviously creative vehicles. They rolled through Volostad's defenses with amazing rapidity, taking over the entire planet in little more than a month. They lost thousands of orcs along the way, however, and if humans are ever to retake the planet, now is the time before the orcs can rebuild their weakened numbers. To this end, they have assigned you, a Lord Commander Militant, to marshal the forces necessary to bring Volostad back under the Emperor's control. As you conquer more territory, more forces become available until you finally drive Skrull from the planet. The Imperium has made it imperative that you liberate Volostad. To this end, they have assigned you elements of the Ultramarine Second Company. Its duty is to establish a landing zone on the planet while eliminating any orcs who might try to interfere. You command them from your headquarters in orbit around the planet. The Ultramarines cannot remain with you, as their Emperor needs them elsewhere, but this does not mean you should waste their lives. After they have established the landing zone, your regular troops begin arriving, and you should get used to conserving their strength. Yeah. Game difficulty is adjusted by the number of points the AI gets with which to purchase units. A handicap, if you will. Play mode presents 2 options. You can choose to either alternate phases with the AI for each detachment's movement, or move the entire side during your turn, and the AI moves its entire force in turn. Yeah. Campaign turn. Main areas of human habitation on Volostad. We seize a landing zone and then recapture the nearby starport, hopefully, at the southwest corner of the map. Once you have done this, your reinforcements can begin arriving in mass. As Lord Commander, you can pick and choose the locations of your thrusts. How you recapture Volostad is left up to you. During the campaign turn, you can direct your armies across the regions of the world, rebuild your current regiments, and create new armies to command. What actions you can perform depend on the resource points you control, points amassed via the regions you liberate. Each army on the map has 1 action per turn. Your forces move first, followed by the orcs. Our control options on the map, which is broken down the regional districts for ease of planetary management. They're highlighted by a natural or industrial feature. How things are displayed, how regions can be attacked, and then the resource points tied to them. Orcs are not known for their ability to accept defeat. It is not a question of if the orcs will attack you, but when. You must remain prepared, posting secondary regiments on the flank of your main army. Do not spread your forces out too thin or all may be lost. Though your primary task is to crush Skrull, If the orcs manage to recapture the spaceport at the southwest corner of the world, your career as Lord Commander is over, no matter how close you are to victory. Then we have our Imperial forces in command, how to create companies, replacements and reinforcements, and experience points of units. New units are classified as green, they survive a battle, they become normal, and veterans survive 3 battles. More experienced units are harder to kill, shoot more accurately, do more damage, and are less likely to break under pressure. Okay, the entire ruling arm of House Pachenka was tragically wiped out when their island retreat of Mosvanyas off the Rabashka Peninsula was destroyed as a result of the orcs' original landing. When the orc space hulk hit, it activated a spur of the Kobolov Fold fault line and triggered massive seismic and volcanic activity. A massive tidal wave took the Imperial family unaware and destroyed the island and its inhabitants. The only surviving member of the ruling branch of the family was Yuri Oldikov Pachenka, 5th Overlord and nephew of the late Overlord Primus. As fate would have it, he survived by being the weakest Pachenka, bedridden for several years. He further refused to accompany the royal party due to personal reasons involving his servant, Mikhail Kolostoy. Okay, nobles and ruling families just going down in droves, as it should be. They were all weak, doubtlessly. And this survivor, the weakest of them all. A quick battle functionality. Woo! Create your own battles with a quick battle generator. Determining points or battle types. Choosing maps. Unit selections. And then gameplay. Have fun. Warboss Scroll of the Evil Sons clan is a shrewd and intellectual orc. For an orc, that is. One day, he and one of his raiding parties attacked and captured a lone Imperial ship, quite by luck, as it came out of the warp. Scroll's luck continued in that the ship contained 5 newly trained astropaths on their way to their distant postings. After looting the ship and modifying it to suit his needs, Scroll killed and ate all 5 of the astropaths. He was never sure whether that was a good idea or not, since humans in general never did settle with him very well. These particular human weird boys he had eaten had given him some very strange dreams indeed. Visions of conquest and immense power came to him. Whole sectors of Imperial space were at his feet. In the back of Scroll's tiny mind, the seed of an idea sprouted and blossomed. He just might have before him a crusade, inspired by the visions undoubtedly sent to him by Gork and Mork. One particularly intense bout of these visions drove him into action. He grabbed the bestest lads and went to the bridge of his captured ship. The other orcs argued as to what was going on, what to do next, and who was in charge. Scroll, who had been sitting quietly in the corner with a fixed glassy stare during all of this, suddenly leapt up and with a roar pulled out his bolter and fired a single shot at the huge navigation map on the wall. The room fell quiet except for the echo of the shot, the sound of falling shards of metal. Scroll spoke. "We goes there." Scroll pointed at the hole in the map with his scaly finger. "Gork and Mork says so." He turned to the others, who watched with open-mouthed amazement. "They also says, it's a warg!" The room spontaneously erupted into a deafening roar of excitement. All joined in, even the ones who did not know what was going on. The group was so shocked and impressed by this inspired decision-making that a unanimous judgment was made to follow Scroll in his quest, and with that, the die was cast. Volostad would be his. And then setting the game up for multiplayer. Modeled to be identical to Hot Seat Play. You can play via LAN internet services or serial connections using modems or no modem link. Up to 4 players can fight it out using the IPX protocol. Playing Epic Warhammer 40,000 Final Liberation on the internet requires at least a 14,400 modem, a WinSock 1.1 compliant TCP/IP stack, a valid account with an internet service provider, and a valid internet email address. Windows 95. Stuff. We are beginning to find fascinating biological information regarding the orcoid species. I am working in conjunction with Genitor Major Anzion with my findings. It appears the orcoid species may be closer in their genetic makeup to humans than previously thought, but it is the differing elements that are alarming. Orcoids appear as if they may be a symbiosis of 2 biologies within a single structure. In addition to the humanoid base, a secondary makeup of an algae fungal base. These findings are in direct lineage to by Genitor Major Zebriel reports regarding the subject, whose outstanding research brought us to the brink of discovery we are at today, Ultimus Lauder. To understand the orcoid species, one must One must first be aware of their, so far, unique biostructure and zoological genetics. When I refer to orcoid species, I refer to all aspects of the green-skinned society, from the dominant orcs to the smaller gretchens, snotlings, to the subanimal squigs. Although physically, and anatomically diverse, these different species all share a common genetic base. The standard genetic structure of an orcoid remains essentially the same as that of man, in that it dictates the majority of the creature's form, though see later comments about growth patterns and biological processes. We currently hypothesize this plant-like secondary structure within the orcoid gene gives orcs their strength, resilience to damage, and is the key to understanding their procreative cycle. If our findings bear out to be correct, and maybe bear out that the orc threat could be vastly underrated. The orc reproductive cycle may in fact be airborne by nature. Then we have some tactical notes involving recon. Expect enemies to make use of cover. Don't expose your more valuable units until you're sure you know what you're up against. Land forces, mix it all up. There's some value in that. Most fights require that your forces advance. Those pesky objective markers can really eat up your score without you ever noticing them. Advance under artillery cover as much as possible. Aim for the largest cluster of troops, just in case the shells drift off target. Send out your cheaper units first to spot hidden enemy troops and to screen your more valuable shit. Then kick ass. Flyers are some of the most devastating units in the game, but they are also some of the most vulnerable. Use them as early in your turn as you can. They can flush out hidden enemy units. You can use them to target the enemy's best force as quickly as possible. They can knock out artillery before it has a chance to pulverize your shit, but they don't have much armor. If you get them too close to enemy guns or anywhere near anti-aircraft guns, and they come spiraling to Earth in no time. A review of the Imperial units. They boast a wide variety, and players should take advantage of this. Its armor is second to none, and many of the Emperor's enemies have met their end under a hail of basilisk and bombard shells. Mixing up the infantry and armor and combined arms tactics is its best strategy. Its one weakness is its lack of speed. Moving troops from one trouble spot to another quickly enough can prove a problem. Warg! The orcs. Orcs delight in the weirdest weapons they can get their green paws on, and their opponents should always expect the unexpected. The cult of speed has a strong presence in Volostad, and if you use the orcs, you should exploit this. Rush in to pick off vulnerable Imperial units, set up flicking shots as much as possible, stick to cover, and then come roaring out of the hills. Most of your infantry is also superior to the Imperial Guard, so do not be afraid to come in and mix things up. Throw squad after squad at big units in close assault. Remember that the more close assaults you do, the more likely the enemy is to die. The orcs have two main weaknesses. First of all, they have almost no indirect fire weapons. They lack good artillery. Have to do most of their fighting toe-to-toe. Their second problem is the unpredictability of their weapons. Many of their weapons might work unbelievably well, or they may kill the orcs firing them. Try not to rely on such dangerous weapons, take advantage of their power, but do not count on them winning the game for you. Then we have the races in the epic Warhammer 40k universe. Humanity, with a review of the Space Marines and the flavors of Space Marine, including the four most renowned chapters. We have orcs. There's a bet on chaos, Eldar, and the Tyranids. I don't know to what extent these other races will function in the game. I don't know to what extent the instruction manual is correct, really, because there's a difference between what's written and what is true. And I'm not looking for that information to be shared with me through viewer comments. This, like, beyond the prep stuff I did to, for the series, I haven't played the fucking video game. I don't know what the hell is coming. I don't know what to expect. I don't know how effective the AI is. I don't know whether it even does counterattacks at all. I don't want you to give me answers to those questions. One of the things I enjoy about playing video games is discovery. And you telling me is not the discovery. It's you telling me. There's no need for me to go out and discover if you've already got all the answers for me, so fuck your answers. Last words. Paint it red, 'cause red make it go faster. Then we have a glossary. And some planets of note. And we have a unit database. Would you like to know more? A bit on commissars. Rough Riders, horse-mounted warriors carrying out a range of duties for their regiments, including scouting, patrolling, and high-speed close-range assaults. Truly, the Imperium of Man is vast. Leviathans, our space orc horde, with giblet grinders, battle wagons, bone breakers, bone crunchers, bubble chucker speedsters, bowel burners, gob smashers, spleen rippers, gut rippers, mech boy lifter dropper speedsters. Utilizes a tractor beam weapon to physically lift an enemy vehicle, often resulting in its vehicle being used as a deadly crushing missile upon another opponent. What the fuck? Okay, we're looking out for that one. Lung bursters, mech boy dragsters, pulsar rockets, mech boy cannon speedsters, mech boy speedsters, war buggies, weird boy towers. Oh. Knobs war bikes, bike boys, storm boys, Gretchens, mad boys, evil sons orc clan, mad moons orc clan, goth orc clan, knobs warlords war bosses, mech boy gargants. Offensive capabilities: the super lifted dropper arm, buzzsaw arm, crusher arm, deluxe custom cannon. Extremely variable. Custom force field generator, or ORs. General and close range battlefield assault rolls. The Great Gargants, Slasher Gargants, Mech Boy Gargants, and Stompers. Okay. We have our various tables of statistics, special ability descriptions, like force bubbles, and lifter droppers. Okay. And the Imperial timeline of where events broke out. Building the Sphinx Great Pyramids, a Roman Empire, beginning of the Second Epoch, Mars Terraform, Mars is settled. Then we get more details as we get, far away from ancient, super ancient history. The Age of Imperium began in the 30th millennium. We have Primarchs being created. Also in the 30th millennium, very busy. The Horus Heresy. The Emperor's incarcerated within the Golden Throne. That was 10,000 years ago, you see, because it's the 41st millennium. For more than 100 centuries, the Emperor of mankind has sat upon the golden throne of Earth. He is the master of mankind by the will of the gods, and master of a million worlds by the might of his inexhaustible armies. He is a rotting carcass, writhing invisibly with power from the dark age of technology. He is the carrion lord for whom 1,000 souls must be sacrificed every day, so that it may never truly die. All right, it's enough of that. And our credits for holistic design, strategic simulations, games workshop, and the video sequences. And important, the Learning Company, because the Learning Company owns Mindshare, I'm pretty sure the company's name is, which owns strategic simulations. Yeah. TLC. The Learning Company. Yeah. All right. So that's the review of the manual. How much time has it been? Good. Almost, but not quite as long as the first episode. Let's tack on some extra time by looking at the reference card. The README manual supplement. So we have information about NetWar, which is the first arcade-style multiplayer war game with state-of-the-art graphics. Allows up to 30 opponents per battlefield to compete in rapid arcade-style action. Let me tell you, this reference card argument is the first time I've ever heard about NetWar. But it existed. With units like Schmitty, Sonya, AK, and Special Forces Dude. We have our vehicles, our weapons and ammo, and power-ups, like cloaking device. We have our control overview as well. You know, I hit F1 to display the list on our controls. Little chat box down there in the bottom right corner. We got a money display, a mini map, and our system requirements for how you would play NetWar Club SSI. A Microsoft Windows 95 Pentium 90 processor, a better DirectX 3 or higher installed, 16 megabytes of RAM, 32 megabytes recommended, 29 megabytes free hard disk space, 28.8. Okay. You gotta have internet connectivity, a system that can handle the flak. And then a definitive credits list. Because that first credits list in the main manual was not definitive enough. Including our various testers here. Our cast and credits of folks that we're going to be seeing. And the cutscenes. Manual errata. There are no passwords for multiplayer games. There are no AI versus AI games. I read that in the main manual and I got excited. I was like, oh, cool, I can watch the AI fight each other. No. And then a lot of bits about... we made mistakes in the tables. Some hotkey stuff. I pressed V at the end of the first video to show off the color-coded overlay before I ended up flinging us into the second mission. General notes, hits and temps. Hold down the shift key with any artillery to target any area on the map. Hold down the shift key down with any non-artillery unit to select a target for close assault. The unit will move to the target in close assault provided it has enough movement points. Player 1 is always considered the attacker. Use the terrain and buildings to your advantage. Line of sight and opportunity fire are your best weapons and your worst enemy. That's right, line of sight and opportunity fire. So all those orc boys that were hiding behind the ridge where I couldn't conveniently shoot them, that was great. But I was continuing to bombard them with artillery. And whenever they did poke their heads up, I shot them with artillery fire. In the campaign game, a direct path is often the best path to take. Flyers are outstanding until the enemy picks up their first anti-air unit. Make sure to pick your forces wisely. Multiplayer games, remember to strike the enemy quickly. Use routes to your advantage. I have a scenario breakdowns here, which provide text descriptions, little text blurs, which we're actually going to be able to read in game, and also informs us of where we'll actually be able to pick up like other regiments and at what point we'll be able to unlock other units, which I find pretty neat to look at. Gives me like places to potentially focus on and beeline toward. We just did Zukov in the first mission. We've got to clean out the spaceport. Looks like we're going to be getting another regiment upon doing so. Note that you can have multiple regiments in a zone, but you can only control one regiment at a time. If the orcs attack a region that has multiple regiments, your best one is picked. You don't pick it. Your best one is. Presumably score related wise, like how many points are involved in it. There we go. And regiments can consist of 4 companies. Pretty sure that's how that works. Let's see. Then we have the site of the most important Astropath Monastery. We can pick up a couple regiments there. Port Guskoyet. Oh, these Russian-flavored names are fucking getting to me. Revere their memory. The Volostad Iron Lords are now under your command. I'm uncertain whether it is accurate to regard them as Russian-flavored or themed names. But they certainly have that aesthetic. Main Arms Depot. Adeptus Mechanicus crafted awesome war machines. Just a lot of regions. And then final words. We hope you enjoy Warhammer Epic 40,000 Final Liberation. We have spent over 3 years putting this game together, changing the initial vision of the game from a real-time Me Too product into that which you have today. Between the orky music, the similarity to the Games Workshop rule sets, and the outstanding AI, we know you'll have a good time. Final Liberation marks a new generation of Games Workshop licensed titles on the computer. We are proud to be setting the mark. As rich as any other in science fiction, the Warhammer 40k universe offers an endless gamescape in which to create almost any type of game. Keep an eye out for upcoming titles from SSI, including the first Final Liberation expansion disc. I'm uncertain that exists. Warhammer 40k Chaos Gate, I definitely know that exists, and a host of other games are on the drawing board. Though I will say this, the biggest problem with having been involved with Final Liberation is that I have had no time to paint my figures for the tabletop games. Ah, well, whether lead, pewter, or electronic, the orcs still go faster. Still goes faster. Want to play Final Liberation, paint my figures for Gorka Morka, and sit down to design the next epic computer battle. Enjoy yourselves. John Eberhardt, producer, Strategic Simulations Incorporated. And we have the orky bit at the end. How's come the humies always put the orc bits at the end? Bah! We all knows the bestest way to play this game is as an orc. Not much to know other than to blow up the humies or some orcs that gets in the way. Long as you're blowing something up, don't matter. Just so they know, we orcs is the same as humies, just bigger and green. We like smashing them, but it ain't personal. They better than the elder pansies. That being said, here's how I play. In order to bestest be an orc warlord, you gotta be cunning. Huge hordes of boys got their place, but not as the end of the plan. Gotta have some of everything, otherwise you can't smash them goodies. When you set up, spread out your forces, but put them lousy Gretchen or some of your cheap boys in the front. Keep the good stuff in the back. Tell the buggies to swarm out after the enemy's big stuff, and do it quick. They won't last long, so get them out of there fast. Use the big guns and flyers, only if you think there's no other way to do it. Smashing, but you gots to see their faces to get the full fun of it. If you're one of them brain boys, you might figure out how to use combined arms and make a good smash for us. Yumi's calls it finesse, but I calls it good killing ways. Just remember, if you die, so it don't count as a defeat. Now get going. It's a walk. Alright, I'm not an orc. I'm out of here. See you all beyond the bonus.